Thank you for joining us here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida for this media question and answer session with the crew for Space Shuttle Endeavour's STS-134 mission to the International Space Station. Normally, this is an event we hold with the Terminal Countdown Demonstration Test. We normally hold this out at the launch pad, but due to storms coming through the area, we've moved it inside, and you may occasionally hear the rumble of thunder or even a tornado siren go off. So we're going to keep this to about 15 minutes, and I want to turn this immediately over to the commander for the STS-134 mission, Mark Kelly. Sir?
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming out on this beautiful Florida morning. We're supposed to be doing this out at the launch pad today, but that certainly didn't work out. The weather today is going to change our plans for our training at the pad. Typically, we do some egress and firefighting kind of training, the slide wire down to the basket, the bunker, and we're going to move some of that to tomorrow and maybe even some of it into the launch week for a couple of our crew members. I haven't really talked to them about that yet, but that's kind of the plan. It's good to be here. Like I said at the SLF the other day, this is the time where our training kind of meets the processing of the vehicle. The vehicle's in great shape. We were out there yesterday. We did what's called payload bay walkdown, which is pretty interesting because the vehicle's now in the vertical, so it's more like payload bay, climb up and down the stairs, and take a look at ELC3 and AMS in the payload bay and just other interfaces that our EVA crew members especially will have to deal with as they translate in and out of the payload bay and around that hardware once it gets moved over to station. So that was pretty valuable for us to do that. We did a couple STA flights, the shuttle training airplane, for my pilot and I. Got 10 dives yesterday morning, and we tried again today, but that didn't work out too well. I got 2 approaches, and Greg got 1 before we had to land due to some lousy weather, rain, and lightning getting close to the field. But as you guys know, we only need 1 approach in the orbiter, so the 1 and 2 approaches was enough for today. I'm going to quickly introduce my crew, and then we'll turn over for some questions. Greg Johnson, our pilot, retired Air Force colonel, combat pilot from Desert Storm, and Air Force test pilot. This will be his second flight. He flew on STS-123. Mike Fink, MS-1. He's flown 2 flights on Soyuz. On flight day 12, he becomes the American with the most time in space, somewhere north of a year, I think. Is that right? Roberto Vittori, our MS-2, the flight engineer for the mission. He'll do some robotic ops. He's made 2 trips to the space station as well, both of those on Soyuz, like Mike. And then Drew Feustel. He was one of the spacewalkers for the last Hubble repair mission, is our lead spacewalker for this flight, so he's flown before on the space shuttle on STS-125. And then Greg Chamatoff, one of our other spacewalkers, who flew with me on STS-124, my last flight, where he spent 183 days, I think, in space. This time when we close the hatch, he'll be on the orbiter side instead of the space station side. So that makes me feel a little better, so I don't have to close the hatch on him again. I'd like to keep the questions related to the mission, if at all possible. We're still working on plans. Jerry and I were actually talking this morning a little bit if my wife can make it down here for the flight. So that's still being discussed. Don't have final approval from her doctors yet, but we are pretty hopeful that she may be able to get down here. So let me just turn it over for questions.
Start off with just 1 question apiece. Name, news affiliation, and we'll get around to as many people as possible. Start off with Marcia, front row.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press for Commander Kelly. It's long-time tradition for each astronaut to have a pre-flight party, even though they can't go. Are you going to be able to organize such a thing? Have you? And will Scott be your host? How many guests are you personally expecting?
I've been asked that a number of times, and I've been pretty busy. Some of my guests have even asked. Folks at NASA that, are somewhat interested, we typically send other members of our office there. They've asked as well, and I haven't put it together yet. So if you're willing to organize it for me, I think we might have a volunteer. So I don't know. We'll see. I've not decided yet.
Do you have many extended family or
I've got
friends?
A few,
How
I've
many?
got a few guests coming.
Few? Okay.
Yep.
Right. Give me the front row.
Jim Siegel, Celebration Independent Newspaper. I believe that Greg and Mike are going to be removing the boom from the orbiter and installing it on the space station. And is this the first time that a boom has been removed from the space shuttle in space? And could you tell us a little bit about how you plan to do this, where it's going to be removed from the orbiter, and how you're going to place it on the space station?
No, it's not the first time. Actually, last time when I was up there with Mark, we were picking it up because the jam was brought up in STS-124. There wasn't enough room to have the boom in the pale bay at the same time, so it was dropped off on a previous flight. But basically, there's some coordination here with robotics and EVA. Box will be flying the arm as well. The station robotic arm will have the boom on it at the time that we mount it to the space station. There's 2 standoffs that are on top of the truss, and these are special mechanisms designed to secure the boom to the truss. And I'll be at one end, Mike will be at the other end. It's very careful coordination to bring this, very large boom in carefully, and then a handoff where Mike and I will be holding onto the boom as Box releases the arm and backs away, and then we secure it and tie it down. And there's some work we're going to do to configure it. And actually, part of that, the reason for putting it there in the first place this time is to leave it up there for potential use on the station to possibly reach far out if we need it for some future repair or something. So we're going to be reconfiguring it so that the station arm can grapple it right at the end, which means changing out an end effector, which is part of that EVA as well.
And I got the impression that it was going to be somehow connected, or, well, I guess connected to the boom that's on the space station now to double its
right. So once
reach,
it's on
or
once it's on the station and left there, it's possible for the station arm to grapple it from the end, and then it basically extend the reach of the station robotic arm. Right.
Anyone else in the front row? Maggie, if you can come around this side since you're already halfway there. Yeah, on this side. Thank you.
Yes, Dominique Dutin, ISA TV. It's for Roberto Viteri. And on behalf of the European broadcasters who could not make it here, first of all, how do you feel? And how do you feel with next to the shuttle, of course, and the first time you're going to be in the shuttle, and in these last days until the launch? And if you could translate in Italian afterwards, please.
Despite the weather, I'm very happy to be here today. First opportunity to fly on the shuttle. And I fly on this opportunity of the Italian Space Agency as astronaut of European Space Agency, and I look forward to see AMS installed to the International Space Station. You want Italian? Per me è un onore essere qua oggi, malgrado il tempo non perfetto. Tutti i preparativi stanno andando nella direzione corretta per un lancio il 19 aprile. La missione è una importante missione dell'Agenzia Spaziale Italiana e volo come astronauta dell'Agenzia Spaziale Europea.
Is it like a dream come true for you to be here today?
I have been training for since '98, and yes, it's very important finally to get to this spaceflight opportunity on the shuttle. Sono in addestramento qua a Houston dal 98, malgrado le 2 interruzioni per i voli del Soyuz, e certamente è molto importante avere questa opportunità di volo spaziale.
Dan Billow in English, please.
Dan Billow from WESH TV. I think for Drew, are you making, I believe you're making the last last spacewalk by a space shuttle crew. How do you feel about that? And any special plans for that, or way of commemorating that? Anything gonna happen?
Well, we are excited to have the opportunity to be the last space shuttle crew performing EVAs on the space station. Of course, after we leave, the space station does have the capability of doing EVAs as well. That would be station-based crews. So, of course, we're taking this opportunity. We started out with 3 EVAs on the mission and eventually added a 4th. We've filled our time on each of the EVAs to try to maximize, the usefulness of having us there and having the training that we can carry out in Houston to prepare for the mission. So we don't have any special commemorations. Actually, Greg Chamitoff will be the last individual, the last shuttle-based EVA crew member to close the space station hatch. So as the lead spacewalker, I've designated him as the one that will give the grand speech, and he's been working on that task, I think, for some time now, preparing to be ready for the end of the mission.
Mark Ratterman with Talking Space. A question for Drew Feustel. Could you tell us a little about Kurtek, the children's cartoon favorite, who's going to be making a flight on Endeavour from the Czech Republic?
Yeah, Kurtek has been is a small animated character that's been in the news recently, and it's an item that is flying. Something that was selected that's very popular in Europe and especially the Czech Republic. And is a character that we hope has captured the imagination of the kids there. And there's been a science program and outreach program designed around Kurtek, and we hope to be able to extend the experience of space to many of the kids there in Europe, and try to do some outreach, highlighting science, technology, engineering, mathematics to those kids and getting them excited. So. It's just one of these items that we hope to be able to do some outreach with while we're on the mission.
Okay. Yeah.
Bill Harwood with CBS for the commander. A question you can't answer, but it's not about an obvious topic. You guys talked to the government and thought about the shutdown, I'm sure, and there's a lot of talk going on right now that on the 8th there might be a shutdown. And given what little contingency you guys have in your flow, I just wondered if you guys have discussed it. You had a message you wanted to send to the lawmakers who make these decisions. What do you think about all that?
I was discussing this topic with Colonel Bob Cabana just yesterday. He was, as you guys know, is the KSC Center Director, about what would happen with regards to the CR. Headquarters has a plan. I think it depends a lot on what NASA headquarters decides with regards to what the CR means, what the language is, whether or not there's a CR. There are some, I think are some opportunities where we could actually continue towards an April 19th launch date if there's not a CR. I don't have those details. I think you could probably get those from NASA headquarters, though.
Okay. Todd?
Todd Halverson of Florida Today for whoever wants to field it. I'm just wondering what it's like to work for Mark Kelly.
Spanky.
I've been associated with Mark since 1996. We're all the same classmates, and I haven't had a chance to walk in Mark's shoes exactly, but like his brother, I was commander of the International Space Station, and I appreciate all the hard work and all the thankless jobs you get sometimes being a commander. And then you had, a particularly difficult family situation, and I'd just like to, say that Mark's been doing an outstanding job. He's been providing great leadership to our crew and giving us what we need so that we can do our job. And I'd like to compliment our crewmates for being there for Mark, because we're a team, we're a family, and from what we've seen so far, I don't think there's anything out there that we can't handle when we work together as well as we do. When we have our game on, this is an amazing crew.
We got a couple minutes left, so James?
James Dean from Florida Today. For the commander or pilot, with the 30th anniversary of STS-1 coming up, I wondered if you could imagine yourselves in the shoes of your counterparts 30 years ago as they strapped in to fly a vehicle that had never been launched before, never been in space, never re-entered. Does that strike you, even given the risks you all still take today, as something that was extremely bold? And can you imagine being in that position again with a next generation vehicle, and something that had not yet been test flown in the way you fly it?
Well, I have to say, anytime, whether it be a new airplane or a new spacecraft, when you strap it on for the first time, That's very significant. And I think every time you strap on a space shuttle, there is some intimidation among the crew members, knowing that there's just an awesome amount of power and something that's going to be a milestone in their life, whether it's the first time or the fourth time. And Mark and I were talking about it today, how excited we are to be flying Endeavour in a couple weeks. But those first guys, I think they're very brave, and I know we learned a lot from STS-1. But each mission is a test mission, and so we're using the same attention to detail and the same focus, I think, even now as they were on the very first mission.
I remember being in the 11th grade in 1981, and first learning that John Young and Bob Robert Crippen were going to fly Columbia without the vehicle being previously tested, and being 17 years old at the time and not knowing anything about the space business and anything about aviation. I do recall thinking to myself, are you kidding me? These guys are going to climb in here and this thing's never flown before? I really remember thinking that. So you got to give them credit, for doing that. That was an incredibly bold move. If you know a little bit about how the shuttle works and how important it is to have a crew on board to mitigate the risk, the shuttle is a very complex vehicle, so it was actually very important to have the crew on board. At the same time, when you consider the complexity and the fact that it hadn't flown, that really was a very brave thing for the two of those guys to do. So, hats off to them. And I know whenever I see John and Bob, occasionally we'll talk about that. That's one of those, things that I think is going to go down in history as one of the bravest thing two people have ever done.
Yeah, we are unfortunately out of time, but I think I'm going to turn this back over to Commander Kelly for a couple of
Well,
comments.
thanks for coming. Nobody asked about AMS, so I'm going to make a quick comment. The alpha magnetic spectrometer is going to be one of the premier, science experiments of the 21st century, we hope. Hubble has shown millions of people incredible pictures of, not only our galaxy but the universe. And we can learn a lot from those images. But what AMS is going to do is going to teach us a lot about what we're seeing in those pictures, what's the makeup of the cosmos. And, as a crew being involved with this experiment, we're pretty excited about what the results are going to be. We were talking to Dr. Ting just yesterday at the pad, Professor Samuel Ting, who won the Nobel Prize for Physics, who is the program manager for AMS, and he told us just yesterday that within an hour of Greg and Greg attaching this to space station, they're going to start having data. And they're going to collect data over the next 15 or 20 years. And AMS could be teaching us things about the universe that are completely unexpected. So we'll see what it can tell us, but we're certainly very excited about the prospects for that science. So again, thanks for coming. We'll finish TCDT tomorrow and head back to Houston early afternoon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you hopefully back here on April 15th for their pre-launch. Thanks.